Welcome, guys, to the Otaku Taku Podcast. I guess this is our first official episode. But
Yep, first official.
today's episode, we are going to be going over Re:Zero and Season 2 coming out this summer. Otaku Taku. So, Jack, where are we going to start things off?
I'm gonna turn on my phone real quick. I haven't. So I guess you could, to start things off. I think we're gonna do something a little bit fun. We're gonna do what we call a one sentence summary of the story. So you can go first, Quinlan. What would you describe the story of Re:Zero in one sentence?
I don't really necessarily have a preparation for this at the moment. However, I would say that shit traumatic.
I would say bright colors and gore.
Yes. That definitely is a part of the series.
hmm Yeah, it's something that makes Re:Zero a lot different from Isekai is that unlike Overlord, Re:Zero has bright colors going about, but there's a surprising amount of gory content in the anime.
Yeah, like it's like a fantasy world, but it's not what you would kind of assume it would be. So basically, he's like thrown in to a place where he has no idea what he's doing, and he doesn't really learn except by dying a bunch.
So basically, to give you an introduction to the story, it follows a college. I think it's either a high school or a college student. I think it's a college student. His name is Natsuki Subaru.
Subaru.
He's your typical angsty teen. He's a shut-in otaku. If you've seen Konosuba, he's like Kazuma, but his personality is a lot different. He definitely is in the category of a shut-in NEET or hikikomori.
But actually, I think it wasn't so much of a NEET. Like he did like I think he did soccer or something, but he just didn't have like a direction for his life. Really, is how they like describe his character, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, and when he's coming home from a convenience store, he basically gets transported to another world all of a sudden. And along with being transported to this other world, is that he gains the ability which he calls return after death, meaning every time he dies, his life returns to a fixed point in that fantasy world. So essentially, it's like Groundhog Day on steroids, but and animated.
It is. Okay, I'm pulling this into Pop Out real quick because I am going to go to one of my friend's servers and get an epic meme.
A meme?
Yes. Okay, so
okay, and also to give an introduction to the main story, and it's basically an adventure of Subaru in this other world and how he has to face the ordeals of getting caught in other people's business, which more often than not leads to a brutal death.
Yes, very brutal deaths of not only him, but all of the other characters in the series.
Yeah, all the other characters.
Yes.
And I don't have too much knowledge of the light novels that this anime is based on. But I've heard a lot of speculation that there were a lot of details from the story that were cut out from the light novels when fitting into the anime. I mean, White Fox is often known for doing this, but they went back and redid the first season with the director's cut.
And also like the like spin-off series that's kind of like the Isekai Quartet. they have like a ReZero one that like talks about more of the lore and stuff. So like with like the witches and stuff, the different archbishops and whatever. Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Oh, and before I let anybody know, there will be spoilers in this
there's
podcast.
Definitely spoilers. I shall do a spoiler warning probably after the intro.
So yeah, skip this time frame to avoid major spoilers.
Yes. So probably since you didn't watch like the earlier on parts of the director's cut or even the later parts.
I only watched season 1 on Blu-ray.
Yeah. Like you saw season 1, but and I like sent you that link to like the ending of the season 1 in the director's cut, like that after.
That's supposed to be a lead up to season 2.
Yeah, but we're not gonna start there. We're gonna start way back, after like the first arc, which is where the people come and save Subaru, I guess.
You mean the Manor arc?
Yeah, it's basically in the Manor arc. So where dang, I'm blanking out on names. But what's the dang dude's name?
Roswald?
Yes, Roswald. Back when Roswald is like talking to Ram about his plans or whatever for like his like getting like Amelia to become the new like leader of the country and whatever.
So yeah, in case you didn't know.
Yeah, basically Amelia's trying to become the next ruler and Roswald's kind of like her guardian kind of.
Yeah. Picture of Amelia will be right up here.
Probably. I don't know if I can edit that.
If you're able to do editing.
Okay. But basically there's this one scene that isn't in the original cut, which is where Roswell is like talking to Ram or whatever, doing that. Like it's an extended part of that scene. But basically he says that he's going to kill the dragon or something. Which the dragon
he's going to kill the dragon.
Yeah, the dragon is supposed to be like the protector of the kingdom and whatever. But there's not really much information given in the original. So like a lot of people don't pay attention to that kind of stuff, but the director's cut makes it very obvious that there's a lot more going on.
Yeah, and I barely remember that from the first season, because I remember the first time that Lord Roswald was talking with Ram was when he was very suspicious of Subaru's behavior.
Yeah.
Like they thought he was a spy from a witch's cult or something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually, before I forget, I have a ReZero wall scroll in the back.
Yes, you do.
I'm gonna
It's
zoom
not
in real
focused,
quick.
But oh, there it goes. Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, you can see it back there along with my Hero Aka poster. So yeah, I'll tilt my camera back, and there we go. And if you're wondering where I got this at a convention, actually for free. I paid, I think, $30 for the one back here, but this one was given to me for free by the vendor. So I thought, cool. Free wall scroll.
Yes. But so there's like some more stuff that they added to the director's cut, like they extended like certain sections or like pauses between like lines that were said to make it feel kind of less rushed, because they had like 10 or so minutes that they added extra with each episode, because they take out like the beginning times of like they take out like the intros to the.
Well, why don't we go over this towards like the end of the podcast, because I'm trying to follow the outline as much as possible.
Yeah.
So, what are your favorite things about the story for ReZero? What aspects do you like?
I like how it's very, very dark and kind of mysterious. Like, there's a lot of suffering that goes into the stuff Subaru has to do. But
yeah,
like,
he dies over and over and over again.
Yeah, and even like the world building in it is very good too, for the people that actually pay attention.
The world feels very. It doesn't feel like super special, but it doesn't feel very generic. It's not like Fire Force, where I could possibly care less about the setting.
But see, it's not really like you expect it to be generic, like generic fantasy world, but it really isn't because so many
Yeah, the
things are
world.
like different and have way more depth. Like every single character in there is like very well developed and stuff. That's another good thing about the series. But basically like the world building aspect is very good.
Yeah, the setting plays an important part to the story of ReZero. And that also would apply to the much later arcs, especially with the White Whale and the Witch's Cult, which is in the
Yes.
second part of the anime. All right. In my personal opinion, my favorite things about the story for ReZero is mostly for how it's paced. I like how there's maybe one little story, like one time loop that you're focused in, and Subaru has to learn from his mistakes
Mm-hmm.
and conquer this challenge to overcome this challenge that he's put with, but also having to learn from his mistakes,
It's like each arc is like two or three different routes, kind of, is what it
like a
kind of
visual
seems like.
novel.
But yeah,
And
basically like
I'm pretty sure that's what Tappei Nagatsuki was taking inspiration from. The arc setup was from visual novels. Like you have bad
mm,
ends in visual novels like Fate's Day Night and other visual novels I can hardly think of. Because
yeah.
I haven't read too many visual novels except for maybe Magikoi.
Mm.
And now to the bad part. What do you think is the biggest problem with the story for ReZero? What do you think is the biggest issue?
Honestly, I would probably say it's a mix of the average viewer watching it versus like more knowledgeable people, I guess. So
Yeah, I
not like normie anime fans, because it was the most popular series in like 2016, I think,
Yeah, it was the most
and
popular series in 2016.
a lot of people
And
just watched it for like its popularity, and like the most memorable thing about it really is like episode like 14 and 15 where like Subaru's
15,
suffering the most. Like
that's
episode 15 is the best episode.
yes, it
Yeah.
almost felt like a movie.
Hmm. And the director's
And
cut does it even better.
really,
It's very
that's
good.
enough. That's enough reason for me to watch the director's cut before season 2 comes out.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like quite a
Um,
lot of stuff in there.
my biggest issue with the story is I think the shift in focus, especially in the second part. Okay, so in the second part, after episode 15, you're introduced to the witch's cult and Lord Beetlejuice, who, by the way,
Beetlejuice.
who if you watch the Japanese version, he's voiced by the same voice actor as Kirito, Yoshitsugu Matsuoka.
He did a very
Um,
good job. Very,
yeah,
very good
very
job.
good job. And I watched the series dubbed, and he still
Hmm.
did a good job. I think this was one of Funimation's best dubs. Okay,
Yeah.
but back to what I was saying. You get introduced to the witch's cult, and you have Subaru on the way there, but then you're interrupted by the white whale, which is another big problem in the kingdom. But you have to put the story arc for the witch's cult, on pause, and then go to the white whale and kill it. That is my biggest issue with ReZero. It's a shift in focus of the story. Your main goal changes, and that's not usually very good for a series early on. You need to have a clear focus, a clear objective in your story writing. So to Tappei Nagatsuki, I think you can take note of that.
But see, there's a lot of things with the story that having the white whale be an obstacle helped progress like character development and like world building and even that kind of stuff. Because if there wasn't the white whale, then you would just go there and they would like you would maybe get like an alliance, but there wouldn't be as much of a reason because it would be more personal that
Yeah,
that Subaru wants to like save Amelia kind of,
yeah.
rather than it being like a chance for like the like selection kind of thing to actually have more events for that also tie in with the like the story
Yeah.
as a whole.
Yeah. And as much as I dislike the shift in focus, I think the
Yeah.
White Whale arc did a pretty good job in giving more depth to the characters and their motives, especially Wilhelm. Like I know I could okay. before, I could give less of a shit about him. But after watching the White Whale arc, I really liked his character, and I'm actually really interested in exploring his character in the ReZero EX light novels.
Yeah, because there's like his 4 of those, I think, right now.
Yeah.
In print.
And Crucier, who's one of the candidates for the throne, I actually think she'd be one of the best girls in ReZero.
Yes, a lot of people actually think that. It's just that there's like not as much artwork, I guess.
Yeah, there's not as much of a fan base behind her as much as Emilia and Ram.
It's probably just because of like screen time and whatever. But yeah, so that's why I'm kind of interested for season 2, because from like the front cover or whatever, it basically shows like a forest or some sort and like a castle in the background or whatever.
Yeah, and then you see the witch, the hands of the witch.
But we don't necessarily
grasping.
As anime only, we don't necessarily know what that is yet. So it might just be the first like part of the arc or something, or it might even be like arc 6 or something, because there's like 4 or there's like 4 in the season 1, I think, 4 or 5. But yeah, I don't know if it'll be like early on that like they're actually like trying to fight like basically the hordes of evil creatures and whatever.
And now we're going to move on to the characters. So we're going to give a little bit more of an overview of the main characters. Let's start with Subaru. So Subaru, when he comes into this new fantasy world, he's a very energetic person. He has a lot of positivity. He likes to spread happiness among his peers, and that sometimes can work against him when he has too much of a positive outlook on life. He fails to realize what his problem really is.
Yeah, because if you guys don't know, it's very extremely obvious that Subaru is pride in the
He's very
canon.
prideful.
He's very prideful. If you watch like through it once, you probably won't notice it as much, especially if you watched like the original season 1. But in like the director's cut and whatever, like there's more lines that make you like, if you already had watched it as like a returning viewer to watch it again, and with the director's cut, you really notice how often he is prideful and how like he acts that way and whatever.
And it's not because he's in a forceful way. He's like this out of habit. When he goes in, he's so used to these tropes in visual novels and video games from the Earth that he feels like it's going to be the same in this world, but his expectations are turned on their heads when he realizes he's in a much worse situation than he really thinks. And I appreciate him trying to make the most of it, but I think he needs to realize that he needs to be a little bit more flexible of a person.
And I think he like realized that the most in like the episode in like the city where basically
in the capital,
like, go away.
Okay, I don't think she said go away.
Yeah, not really, but
okay, this is going to be spoilers, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about Subaru's character. Subaru, when he's in the capital, he makes some pretty dumb decisions, and because of his pride leads him to make dumb decisions in the capital, and it ends up costing his relationship with Emilia. It affects their relationship immensely, and it's mostly because Subaru broke his trust. He broke Emilia's trust. She trusted him to be safe at Roswald's Manor, but he was so prideful and he wanted to be with Emilia everywhere he went. And he ended up disobeying and breaking her promise.
With, one of the knights too.
Okay, I'll talk about that in a minute. But he breaks his trust with Emilia because he's too prideful to admit that he's doing something dumb. And his pride and his will and his extreme obsession with Emilia, I say obsession because it actually was, but his obsession with Amelia ended up him getting into a scuffle and an argument with one of the royal knights, Julius. And Julius kicks his ass.
Yes.
And he basically humiliates him in front of the entire royal knights group. And when Amelia hears about this and the reason why he did this, it basically breaks her heart to realize that Subaru has been sacrificing almost his reputation just because he's obsessed with her. And when Amelia comes to realize this after he's humiliated and beaten, she tells him that what he's doing is selfish. His actions are not for the greater good for their relationship. He's doing this for his own selfish gain. And that's when Subaru realizes that his image that he saw Amelia as is broken. He no longer saw Amelia as the person that he once saw her as. He now sees her as a human being, and that's when he realizes that he really screwed up and that he needs to fix it. I mean, what's your opinion on that?
I think part of like that whole thing, I think I've like said this before, but basically like I don't necessarily think like his reasons for wanting to help Amelia was wrong, because it was out of like she's kind of like one of my only friends in this world, kind of. And,
yeah. And it's also his love
like,
interest.
Yeah, kind of. And
she's a friend and a love interest to him. And he's one of the only people that he can like trust in this new world.
So basically, like, he just didn't know how to like actually like say it to where Amelia would understand like kind of how he felt, because he's not really the best at like expressing that.
He tends to bottle up his true emotions, and then when they were privately chatting in that bedroom, he ended up lashing out at her.
It wasn't necessarily a lash out. Like, it was kind of like from his suffering, and also because he basically says in it that how could you ever repay me for like what I've done for you, and you can't possibly know how much I've done for you, kind of.
It really raises the question if Subaru really does take his pride to that level. Like, is he that prideful to think that Amelia owes him something? And that's when he realizes that he doesn't. She doesn't owe him something.
Amelia tells him that like she doesn't owe him anything anymore or whatever, or like he doesn't owe her anything anymore. And basically he uses like all of the things, like he's trying to tell her about all of like the stuff he's done, but he physically can't because the like witch attacks him or something.
Yeah, whenever he tries to mention his ability, the witch's arm tries to attack him.
Kind of.
And basically squeeze his heart. Or maybe
it's like, it's more of like a you can't tell anyone kind of thing. Because
or maybe
okay, but wait, before we talk more about like that kind of stuff, but so basically he tells Amelia basically that she can't possibly repay him for what he does, and I think that shows that like that he doesn't expect like payment for anything, because if he did, then he would like be actively kind of trying to get her to pay him back, kind of, for all he's done.
Yeah. And I don't think that there can really be a proper way in which Amelia can thank him other than accepting what he's done and try to learn something from what he's and at least recognize that he is trying.
Because I think what Subaru is trying to say basically was that he never really expected anything from anything really. Like, he was doing it because he like genuinely cared about her and everyone from like the mansion. Yeah.
And this leads us to our another character, Rem and Ram.
Yes.
Rem, oh my goodness, she is so popular in
Very
this
popular.
ReZero fanbase. I think she's
Partially
like the most
because
popular.
of screen time, and partially because of extra sized chest, I guess, compared to Ram at least. And that's canon. That is canon.
The thing is that there's a heavy bias towards Rem in the first season of the anime. I've heard some speculation in like the ReZero Amino community that there is a lot of focus on Amelia in the later arcs, especially when the second
that's what
one
I've
adapted.
heard as well. Your mic like got muted or something. We're still on intermission at the moment, kind of technically. Yeah, so just what you think.
You can provide a timestamp for information.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we're back with the Otaku Taku Podcast, and now we're gonna break. Wait, no, I would have said sponsors beforehand, but if anyone would like to sponsor us, that would be most appreciated. However, it probably
He get
won't
the
happen.
revenue.
No, there would be no revenue. It would be promotion.
Yeah. Yeah, and YouTube's kind of a
Promotional.
downer nowadays.
Yeah. Okay, well, back to the character
let's-
of Rem and Ram.
All right. So why don't we start off with the main backstory of the two twins, specifically Ram.
Yes. So basically, Rem and Ram were born in a demon village, basically. So, but they were twins, so they only had one horn, because in, like, Japanese culture or whatever, the demons over there have, like, 2 horns. Yeah. And then, so basically, Ram was, like, the more powerful one. And then, basically, Rem just felt kind of useless that whole time. But then you get into, like, when they get attacked by the witch's cult. And basically, Ram, like, loses her horn or something. So then, basically, Rem has to take over. Yeah. And then they go to Roswell's mansion, and that's practically it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of characterization. There's a shift in focus to where, and there's a lot of humor revolving around the talents of Rem and Ram, especially Ram, because Subaru likes to nag on Rem for not being as skilled in cooking as Rem is. But
No, but it was like, wow, Rem, you're so good at cooking, and it's like Ram's better anyway, and it's like, because Ram was like better at everything anyway. It was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there was the point where Ram was almost good at everything, and so Subaru was like, so is Ram useless or something?
And it's like, no,
I think-
Ram's better. That's literally what it was.
hmm But I think there's like a little bit more of an equal characterization between both the twins. While Rem gets a lot more involved in the story, they're equal. They're pretty much equal in their characterization.
Mm-hmm. In terms of like dialogue, though, I would say that like they both at base like have very good characterization. It's just that Rem has more interactions with like Subaru.
And she has more of an involvement in the later story.
Yeah.
She basically becomes a companion for Subaru.
Wait. What are we talking about?
We're talking about Rem.
Who's Rem?
Carson? Are you okay?
No! 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 No!
Jokes.
Yeah, jokes on. Nice joke for season 2,
Yes.
though.
Season 2 will start off with basically Rem's missing again somehow because
So
of the white whale that was killed.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, what the white whale was is that it has a ability to wipe people out of existence. So basically, memories of a certain person will be forgotten by other people.
Except
And
Subaru is like the only one that still remembers it.
Yeah.
Because he like
And
keeps
so-
his memories throughout
Yeah.
like, his whole stuff.
Every time he dies, he still keeps his memories, unlike the timeline that resets.
Mm-hmm.
And why don't we talk about Rem's involvement in the story, because she's a very important character in the first season.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons why it's made her so popular and everyone's best girl. So Rem basically becomes a companion for Subaru after Amelia calls him out for his behavior in the capital. So after Amelia cuts ties with Subaru, Rem becomes a companion and emotional support for Subaru.
Yeah, because they were like really good friends, kind of.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Rem used to be very stiff around Subaru, but as she got closer to him, especially in the capital, she started to open up a lot more to Subaru.
Mm-hmm.
And this will lead us into the Witch's Cult arc, the beginning of the Witch's Cult. So basically what happens is that there's a Witch's Cult that worships the Witch of Envy, which is the main villain of ReZero. And she's not like too involved at the moment, but this Witch's Cult worships her as like a goddess. And they are going to launch an attack on Lord Roswald's manor.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Subaru and Rem realize this, they head back to the manor to try to confront the Witch's Cult. But they are instead captured. Subaru's chained up, and Rem is basically... She tries to come in and save Subaru, but she's chained up, and then Beetlejuice tortures her.
With his
unseen
hands.
素晴らしいことですか。少女が一人の少女がこれだけ傷ついてなお進むのです。素晴らしい素晴らしいです。脳が震える。怠惰なる剣の見えざる手です。
And I'm gonna make a little bit of a reference, and I know Quinlan might want his time to talk soon. I'll give it to him, but
Okay, yes.
I know, and this is one of the and I'll talk about episode 15, which is probably, if not the best episode in the entire first season. So in this sequence in episode 15, Subaru's chained up inside the Witch's Cult lair nearby the Lord Roswald's manor.
It's the cave, or it might even be the mines, because the mines have some relevance, because
the walls are jagged.
Yeah, so it's a cave thing. Like, it's either that temple from like kind of the final battle, kind of, where Beetlejuice comes out of there. I think it is that place, which is it's like a temple or a mine or whatever.
It's a temple.
Yeah.
So what happens is that Subaru is chained up, and he's pretending to be mentally unstable, and until...
Like, he's not really pretending. Like, he just... Because before this all happened, in his previous life before that, like, he had made it to the mansion, but everyone is dead. Because he arrived there too late. And so he saw that, and when he comes back, he initially, like... goes basically brain dead, like he's like walking around or whatever, and then Rem starts like taking him to the mansion again and doing that, so he still ends up back at the mansion,
but he gets into a freezing
he's still in like
chamber.
grief like that whole time. No, he's still in grief. Then he gets like chained up and whatever, and Rem gets killed, but Rem's like still alive, which is kind of like crazy. But
she was tortured.
She like crawls
her
to Subaru or whatever, and that's at that point. That's the point after like Beetlejuice has left to attack the village and stuff. And at that point, like Subaru snaps out of it, and then he's like freed from his chains or something somehow. Like Rem uses like a spell to free him from it.
And she also tells him that
there, and so he like carries her to the mansion. But that's the point where he's approaching the mansion, and then
there's
Puck,
a blizzard going on.
There's a blizzard, and Puck comes out into his Giga Giant cat form, and basically freezes Subaru to death. And he says he's going to destroy the whole world.
So what happens is that, if this is like a subtle hint, we don't know this is Puck, but when Subaru's carrying Rem through that blizzard into the mansion, he realizes everyone's dead, and he starts crying and kneeling on the ground, and then suddenly this giant cat emerges from the mansion and stares at Subaru, and he says, "Sleep, along with my daughter."
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Yes.
And in the ending sequence, his head is completely sliced off. Like it just falls off.
Yeah, like it falls
and then there's
off.
and then there's the ending sequence as that timeline disappears. And oh my goodness, that music in the ending, oh my goodness,
it's very good.
One of the best.
But I don't know if it was before that with the no, wait. So when Rem dies in the cave and whatever, he goes there, he takes her there, and no, wait.
And when Subaru comes over, Puck realizes that Emilia is dead inside the manor, and then he emerges out of the manor and kills.
He was going to destroy the world.
So yeah, he was in a contract that if Emilia was killed by humans, he would be fulfilling his contract by destroying the world that the humans live in.
So that was like probably like the darkest point of like the whole entire series. But
and we don't know.
Then in his life after that, he manages to get past the white whale, but that's after Rem is like vaporized or something, and like the sled driver dude or the carriage dude, Otto, he basically forgets about Rem because Rem got vaporized to help him through. He gets to the manor, he goes in, talks to Emilia to like get her to like run away or whatever, but then he has the bright idea of telling her about Return by Death to get her to go with him. But instead of the witch coming to grab his heart, he like feels nothing, and then Emilia's heart gets crushed in front of him,
and she bleeds to death basically. And when Subaru carries Emilia outside, Puck is waiting for them.
Or something. Like there's a portal that opens, that Beatrice opens to shove him out. Because and when Subaru is outside, he is met by the witch's cult members. He's met by Beetlejuice, who calls him initially Pride, and he's like, "You have been of the utmost diligence. Yes, you've done the deed before we could get there, or whatever."
Props to that voice actor, sub and dub.
I really like the sub. It's very nice.
Yeah. Kirito's upset that he didn't get the main lead.
Yeah. But
Okay.
so that's like the second time that Puck is basically going to destroy the world. But in the director's cut, Puck actually says that greed is approaching. Who could he be referring to there?
And now we're gonna move on
wait,
to
wait,
the others.
Wait.
Oh.
Greed is approaching. He says greed is approaching. Who do you think greed would be?
Greed.
Greed or gluttony? I think it was gluttony.
Gluttony? Yeah, I think it was gluttony.
Yeah, because they're based on like the 7 deadly sins, and it's basically like the different names and stuff are like Subaru's pride, Beetlejuice is sloth. There's the Witch of Envy. There's jealousy. There's other stuff. But yeah, so greed is approaching, or gluttony is approaching, and it's the white whale, because because that's one of the maw beasts from like the witches or whatever.
Okay. How about we move on to the other characters? Actually, no. Before we get to Amelia, why don't we talk about Rem's scene in, I think it was episode 18.
Yeah.
And that was like a great characterization for Rem, especially when Subaru was basically beating himself up because he had realized that more to learn, and he was taking that as a bad thing. He was taking his criticism way too seriously.
Yeah, like basically he basically got put to the point to where his only option was just to leave and forget everything, kind of, is where he was at. And he reached out to Rem because she was one of like his only companion, I guess.
It's basically his emotional support.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's where all the pick Rem memes come from.
Why don't you explain that scene? Because I can't really explain it well. It's been a little bit since I watched ReZero. I can barely remember that because it wasn't as important.
So basically, like, Subaru asks Rem if she would like run away with him or whatever to a different like whatever place, and because he like feels like he's not important at all and that he's only hurting everyone, kind of. But
he feels like he's a burden.
Yeah. So he's kind of feels like a burden that like he can't even change anything even if he does something. But then like Rem reminds him that that's not true, and yeah, and that he needs to stay there and follow his heart, kind of.
And she also tells him that that she loves him.
Yeah, like it's kind of like that like he like showed Rem kind of more of who she was, kind of. Yeah.
And this is where all the I Love Amelia memes come in. Like, honestly, those who... Okay, I was about to say a bad word, but I'm going to keep it to myself. I don't really like those people who diss on Subaru and Amelia just because Rem got rejected. Okay. And
Rem
I think
didn't
I
get
understand...
rejected. Subaru got rejected, kind of. Subaru rejected his proposal. Yes.
And I'm going to have to watch that scene again in the director's cut just to get a little bit more knowledge. I mean, it's more motivation to watch it. And it's mostly because I can't really remember a lot from ReZero. As much as I loved it, I'm still trying to recall a lot of what I watched.
Watching it the first time is way different than watching it the second time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you notice a lot more of the details.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
How about I'll cover Amelia's character a little bit myself.
Yeah.
She doesn't get a lot of focus in ReZero in terms of characterization. She's mainly this sweet little innocent girl who's trying to become the ruler of the next kingdom in order to bring more equality into the kingdom. But the problem with her is that she has a very striking resemblance to the Witch of Envy because of her half human, half elf heritage.
Because it's in,
the
like,
Witch
their
of
legends or whatever. It's
yeah,
like,
the Witch.
it's mostly
The Witch
like
of Envy
racial
was once an
propaganda.
elf.
It's like
Mhm.
racial propaganda.
Yeah, it's prejudice.
Yeah.
And when she often gets discriminated against in the capital because of her appearance, which is why she wears this cute little hoodie.
An
And
enchanted
Subaru also
hoodie.
wears it.
An
Yeah, an enchanted hoodie,
that
which
hides,
basically
like, it basically
it
conceals
conceals-
their identity to anyone who they don't want knowing who
Yeah.
they are.
hmm But I will look forward to season 2 when Amelia does get more development, because she's actually one of my favorite characters in ReZero, despite having a very little development in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I do look forward to that in season 2.
Yeah. There's also the Frozen's Bonds movie. I think.
Oh yeah, I need to watch that
It's
OVA.
it's coming to there's Memory Snow, which is like the season 1 one. And the next one, it's kind of like a prequel to the series.
Which is basically about Amelia and Puck.
It's called Frozen Bonds, yeah. And
It's about Amelia and
It's going to
Puck.
be on Crunchyroll, like, at the end of this month, I think.
Yeah, I think at the end of this
So-
one, I'll need to watch it.
I'm definitely
I think
looking
we
forward to that. I think
we
it's the
may do a
24th,
podcast.
actually.
I think
So
we may do a podcast.
It might actually
on
be
that.
tomorrow, dude. I think it
Really,
might be
tomorrow?
tomorrow. I think maybe. I'll
Well,
let you
let's
know
hope
if
we're-
it is.
Well, let's hope we're able to record.
Yeah.
But then you'll be like, oh great, it's 2 videos
We could
to
do an
edit.
Otaku Taku live stream watching the movie.
I don't know if Discord. I wonder if Discord has like copyright regulations though.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't.
No.
Okay. Yeah, we totally could do that, but I just have to make sure I have time to, because we have online school.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep in mind we're still students.
Yes. Yeah, like we could
All right.
watch it together or whatever on here.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Okay, now we're getting to more side characters. Let's talk about one of my favorite side characters is definitely Wilhelm. I didn't care for him at first. I thought he was just like this really supportive old man who tried to make Subaru realize his flaws.
Yeah.
But he turned out to be a lot more. He turned out there was more depth to his character, because when he was a young man, he fell in love with basically the most famous swordswoman
Master
in the
Swordswoman.
kingdom.
Yes.
Yeah, and she was known as the Sword
But
Devil.
he didn't know that at all until like
He didn't
until like
until-
I think a year later or something. A year
yeah
or two.
until she revealed her identity to him, because
like
he would practice.
yeah, he was practicing in that like flower field where she went.
And that's
so-
where Teresa would be to look at the flowers. And initially, Wilhelm could care less about flowers, but once he started to realize that he had more feelings for Teresa, he started to appreciate her love of flowers. And when they got married, that's when he started to change as a person. And that was until and later on, this is a spoiler, Teresa is killed by the white whale.
Yeah. And so basically Wilhelm becomes like the next Master Swordsman, although he already technically was beforehand, because he defeated Teresa in a sword duel.
Mm-hmm.
But like she still had to do her like duties or whatever, I think is how it happened. But then like
she no longer
or-
has the title.
Or she got like attacked by the white whale, I think is what it was. Like she didn't actually like fight it. Like she didn't know it was coming at all or whatever. Like yeah.
Yeah. And that leads to when Wilhelm finally faces the white whale again, he's able to conquer his fears and insecurities of losing his wife to that same creature. We're able to see him at his full strength despite being an old man.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna say
he has like a whole like militia basically of the older generation that knew of the white whale's like damage on the country as a whole.
Yeah. And why don't we briefly go over the other candidates for the throne? Let's start with Crucier, for example.
Yeah.
She basically befriends Subaru like initially befriends Subaru, and he starts to get a little bit more involved with her as the story progresses, and we discover more about what the witches cult's up to in the White Whale. She starts to have more involvement in the story. And if Emilia weren't to get the throne to the kingdom, I'd say Cruce is probably a better alternative because she has a little bit more better intentions of ruling. Anastasia and Priscilla are just your typical sassy noble girls who think they're better than everyone else. Privilege.
However, I think Cruce has she has a very militaristic kind of form for that.
Oh yeah, so she's very stern and strict.
So I think that later on or whatever, she's going to be fighting the witches or whatever.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. I actually don't think that the witches are bad. I think that the dragon is bad, and that's why Roswell, because he knows the truth, wants to kill the dragon. Because the dragon probably has some sort of illusion stuff or influence on that, kind of like with Attack on Titan, how the OG Titan or whatever could influence the minds.
Yeah, the founding Titan.
The founding Titan. I think it's probably something like that, kind of, because the witch that pulls Subaru into that world pulled him in there to save Emilia from the witch's cult, because Beetlejuice actually gets rejected by the witch because he's not the chosen one at all for whatever plans
for her to inherit a human body. That is.
I don't think that's the goal, because there's been plenty of times that Subaru's been near Emilia or whatever. Even when he was gonna tell her about the return by death and she died instead, it might not have been the witch that did it. Possibly not. I really don't know. It makes you think about all sorts of stuff. That would make a really good story if the witch actually wasn't evil. But the whole entire series up until a certain point basically made you think that. But they did a very good job on world building to where it worked. It's not just oh, so the main villain isn't the main villain? Okay.
It'd be clever for Nagatsuki to make it to make the story like that. I think it'd be a welcome.
I think there's definitely a possibility that it could be like that.
Okay.
Especially since Subaru is one of the 7 deadly sins kind of creatures in that world, basically.
He fits the ideology of the sin of pride.
Yeah. Like
Beetlejuice says. Now let's move on to music. This is interesting because you know a lot about the ReZero music, and I do. I just know the atmosphere of the ReZero music. It's a mixture between very happy-go-lucky and very serious, and a very strong and suspenseful atmosphere to it.
Yeah, the soundtrack music is very much like that, and kind of eerie and distant, kind of
it's mysterious.
It's not it's general fantasy music as you would expect, magical or whatever, and it's not happy. It's more makes you kind of think about everything that's going on and its importance about the series.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're not talking about the soundtrack music, the two songs that I think like sum up the series the most are like the ending of like the first half and the opening of the second half, which are both done by ROID.
I love the opening for the second half. That's an awesome opening.
Yes. I forget the name of it right now, but
me too.
I shouldn't forget it because I literally... Okay.
You have it in Apple Music, don't
Paradisus Paradoxum.
Oh, Paradox, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought it started with a P.
But like, because the lyrics kind of make it, you know what, I'll just play it right now because I don't care about copyright.
Go on ahead.
Yes. But it kind of talks about like, epic things, I guess.
I can hear it.
You can hear it?
You might have to share your screen. I can't.
Yeah, I know you can't. But basically it's very dark in terms of like a music lyrics, which is what I really like about Myth and Roid. Like everything's really dark and kind of suffering, I guess.
It has a very melancholic mood.
Yeah.
And for moving on from music, what do you think the main differences between what I watched and what you rewatched in the director's cut was? What do you think are the major changes that were made that White Fox did? Because the studio White Fox did a lot of changes to this new director's cut, and
I would say they made like interactions feel less rushed, and also like certain scenes like especially with how they grouped like 2 episodes together for each episode of the director's cut with like no real break in between. Episode 14 and 15 flow together, so you get to experience like his whole first time going to the mansion and Rem dying or whatever, and then you get that second time, which is like the darkest part of like the whole entire show, and that's all in one 50-minute like section. Plus you finish that off with Styx Helix at the end. You know it's a good episode when Styx Helix plays at the end.
oh my goodness.
Yeah. They did like 2 rushed versions kind of it for like the endings of some of the earlier episodes. Because like all of the different endings are basically different when they do like a full ending. Because in the Rem episode they do like that one Rem song or whatever at the end.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
And then like the episodes after that, like they do like the ending of season 2, which is a very good song by itself. I actually need to download that. But yeah.
Yeah, you have a much bigger advantage with music compared to me. You have Apple Music subscription.
Yeah. Although they don't have it on Apple Music, so I have to download it and add it to Apple Music.
What other changes in the director's cut were made? Were there any changes to the action scenes? Were they redrawn? Was it reanimated? What was the main difference?
I didn't notice any like reanimation really. At least not significant. Like everything was good quality to begin with. I think they like
White Fox?
Yeah, like White Fox does a pretty good job in terms of quality. Like the show still looks very good even now. Like it's not like they remastered it to be like 1080 from like 720 or whatever. It was already like HD quality. But
they have to fit the format to two versions. They have to do their broadcast, and then they have to do another version, which will be like for streaming services. Well, I think they do the broadcast version for streaming services, and then they do another version for the home video release for Blu-ray and DVD.
Yeah. But yeah, like the quality was always there. Always very good.
Yeah, there wasn't really any drop in animation quality. It felt very consistent. The budget was very well put into place. So yeah, very good job, White Fox, for budget planning. Because most anime costs like 12 episodes. It's gonna cost like more than $2 million for production.
Yeah.
Anime is expensive.
Yep. When you compare it to like movies and whatever, they put tons of money into like actual sets and whatever. But like,
anime actually costs cheaper than most Hollywood films.
Yeah.
Like take the movie Cats. They spent $100 million on that
anime.
movie. Only made like 10.9 million in the box office though.
Cats, the anime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the thing is that live action takes a lot more money to produce than
especially
animation
because they have to get like actors and whatever.
Yeah, they have to pay actors for their contracts. They have to pay production teams. They have to pay to have access to the landscaping and film areas.
Like generally, voice acting takes less time, but like they probably get paid like a good amount to do voice acting. It's just that they
I think the director is a lot more generous with payment. And also anime is just generally cheaper to produce on like frames, animation. It doesn't cost that much to begin with.
Yes. But you do have to have like artists and whatever.
Yeah, you have to draw each
it's not
frame.
Really, yeah, it's basically each frame, but then they do like CGI and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like
for the most part, anime
goes is you do like a background kind of image, and that's basically static. Then you have like characters moving through it, and then
dude, we're getting off topic.
No, but then you get into like light rays and whatever. Like how in Weathering with You, they definitely did a very good job with like reflection animation and that kind of stuff, light rays and that. Also,
every single animation panel in Weathering with You is hand drawn.
Mm-hmm. That's why it takes a long time.
Yeah. All right, now we're gonna move on to a very controversial topic: our best girls from the first season of ReZero.
Yeah.
I think in terms of overall characterization, I think the best girl is a tie between either Cruciate or Rem.
Mm-hmm.
As for my best girl, I don't have one yet for ReZero. I don't have a best girl for ReZero yet. In terms of the best girl of the overall story, I do, but as a personal favorite, no. And I know one of my friends is probably getting pissed off at me when he sees this podcast and knows that I'm not a big Rem fan, but that's his loss.
Best girl, Betelgeuse finger number 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about you, Quinlan?
I just said it. Betelgeuse finger number 2. The first time he gets killed and changes to that other person.
He takes fingernail biting to a whole new level.
Yeah, he like bites his fingernail, like fingers off, basically.
Yeah.
My diligence.
And before we get into like an extra addition to the podcast, we're gonna start our final thoughts. Like, what do you think we should expect when we finally get to ReZero Season 2? What are you looking forward to the most?
World building. That's what I look forward to. Because they need to make it to where like you're like, wait, what's going on? There's like this witch or whatever that appeared. There's like a dragon now or whatever. There's like all this stuff happening. And it's like, I don't remember most of this from the first season. They go back, watch the director's cut, or even the first season again. They notice a lot more. I think that's the best thing about the series. How much detail there is.
How much detail is put into the world building.
Yeah.
One of my things I'm looking forward to is how well they are going to involve the characters in the story. Like I'm definitely looking forward to when Amelia gets more characterization, but I also want to know more side characters.
Yeah, because side characters are actually very well developed. Like, there's not really any side characters. There's just screen time.
And I'm curious of how they're going to handle the later story arcs. Because I've heard the later story arcs that'll be in Season 2 are very, very good. Some people say it may end up that ReZero will be Anime of the Year.
I looked through, I think, some of the light novels a bit. Like, in terms of, like, kind of, like, their chapter names or whatever. And there's one called Straight Vet, and I'm hyped for that. Because that's actually another Myth and ROID song that played in like episode 7 or something, or 8, where like Subaru jumps off the cliff.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I found it interesting that they would make a song titled that and put it in the series, and also have a chapter named after it.
Okay. Now I'm going to give you all a little surprise. So I'm going to turn off my camera and my microphone for a second and give it to Quinlan.
A surprise? What kind of surprise? I don't know of any surprises.
It's got to get ready, and it's taking a little while to readjust the camera, so...
Surprises? What's a surprise?
Okay. I've got my camera set down here so you can...
I see that.
Alright. I'm going to show you all this.
Ooh.
This is my... This is what I watched ReZero on. This is Funimation's release, a limited edition release of ReZero Season 1. I bought this off of rightstuffanime.com. They had a holiday sale going on. They were selling this for like $35, which is a good price.
Nice.
Now
Wait, it was $35?
Yeah, $35. And this is out of print.
It was $35?
Yeah.
Dude,
on sale.
Was there only one of them?
There's still some left in stock, but yeah, you can buy it. So I'm gonna go over the disc.
I'm gonna have to look for that because.
So yeah, here's the disc for part 1.
Yeah.
I'll open that up. So yeah, the discs are here's Subaru.
Nice.
Mind, there was an issue when this limited edition was initially released. There was a problem with the disc quality, but now Funimation, I think like a year later, decided to replace the discs. And when I ordered this, it came with the replaced discs. Here's part 2. I do like the disc art a little better on this one, especially with the backgrounds in the casing. So yeah, here's the Blu-rays. Yeah. Now I'm going to show you the extras box, which is probably what most people were looking forward to. So yeah, and while the anime had the artwork for the anime, this one has more of the light novel author's artwork on here. I'm going to open this up real quick. So yeah, it actually comes with a lot of stuff. Well, actually, no, not a lot, but something that makes this box thick. So yeah, these are bookmarks. Initially came with more, but it's cool to have all these anime bookmarks. My Chromebook battery is running low. I probably need to plug it in real quick.
Okay.
And then here's like a little art book for the series, like showing character sketches, whatnot. Amelia, Ram, and all the other side characters. Reinhardt, Wilhelm, Felix, and then other concept art like for the Japanese Blu-ray releases. And then remember this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to spoil in that part, but that's an important part of the second half, that artwork. And then this, I'm not going to open this up because it's really big, but this is a pillowcase of Rem and Amelia. But yeah, that's pretty much it for that Blu-ray release. I'm hoping that Funimation gets their hands on the director's cut so that I can buy that as well.
And hopefully they do like
a
standard
I'm gonna
release after the collector's edition release.
Yeah. I'm hoping there's actually just a standard edition for the director's cut. That way it's cheaper. Because I did happen to spend a lot of money in the holiday season. Now I'm going to shift my camera up to my face real quick.
Okay.
Why don't you tell the audience of the podcast?
What?
What do you think of the next podcast?
What do I think I'm gonna do for the next podcast?
Yeah, what do you think we're gonna do?
I don't know. 'Cause most likely it's probably gonna be when, I guess.
I mean, we
I
could
don't
do
know.
a live. We could do a live stream of memories.
Honestly, we
though.
should do like. We should do like
Like all the major anime and isekai quartet.
yeah, we could do something like that.
Yeah, I mean you've watched a lot of Overlord, and I.
Yeah, I've watched season 1. I haven't gotten into season 2 yet.
Yeah, but we'll decide when we want to have the next podcast. But for now, we're gonna have to log off because
Yeah,
one thing it's like
it's getting
10:30
late.
right now. It's late, and your sister's probably wondering what the heck you're doing.
She's actually repeating everything I say, and it is very annoying.
Well, my sister's on the other side of the house.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Well,
yeah, well,
this has been all for the Otaku Taku podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like down there if you guys did enjoy.
and share.
Check
this
out
video.
the merch. Just
No.
kidding.
You'd be
I
the
don't
only
have
one that
merch.
buys it.
Yeah.
We don't have that kind of money. But yeah, be sure to share this video with people, other weaves that you know.
Yes.
And we're hoping that that we both inform other people about our podcast. I certainly have.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna log off now, because I need to get to bed.
Okay. Well, see you later.
We'll contact you guys about what series we'll do next on our
Also,
Instagram.
we do have an Otaku Taku podcast Discord
And
now.
Yeah, we have it.
So it's Otaku Taku. I guess I'll put like a permanent link in the description here.
Yeah.
Put that in
yeah,
my
the link-
defaults, something like that.
Mhm.
Okay, well.
Yeah, and be sure to follow my gamer tag right there. I actually, no kidding, I made my Discord account shortly before we started recording
Mhm.
because Google Hangouts is being a pain in the butt.
Yes, well, we all hope to see you guys in the next one. Otaku Taku out.
How far should I go? No one ever tells me no more. No one do it.
It's on your old mic again.
Okay. My camera's fine, but I just need to change my... Okay. Can you explain the, you can explain the character of Amelia, actually no,